Well, there's lots of talk these days about the Zika virus in pregnant women. Our health specialist Leah Sarich spoke to an infectious disease expert about what you need to know to travel safe.
Yes, and this is a huge issue. But thankfully, the virus is not here in Canada, so this is good news. But yes, lots of media reports these days about the Zika virus. In fact, the World Health Organization just announcing yesterday the Zika virus is expected to spread to all countries in the Americas, but the good news is not Canada, not Chile. So those two countries should be exempt. So I spoke to an infectious diseases expert about this, and simply the reason that is we just don't have that particular mosquito. So this is a mosquito-borne virus, and so they spread it around, and we simply do not have that mosquito in Canada, and it will not come into our mosquito population. So that's the most important thing to keep in mind. But that said, we do a lot of traveling, especially Calgarians. We do lots of traveling. So he said, Dr. Vaughn, you can get this wherever you go. So keep this in mind. Specifically, though, South America or the Caribbean. That's where the huge outbreaks are right now. But there is significant concern about the virus causing brain damage in unborn babies. So this is what we're really concerned about. And the tricky part is, though, is that women may not even know they've been infected with this virus.
Up to 80% of people don't know that they have infection. The usual symptoms, if you do get them, are fever, slight rash, maybe a little bit of a headache, and then it goes away on its own. Where we're seeing the major complication is in pregnant women. So although we haven't proven that the virus causes congenital abnormalities, there's significant research going on right now to try to prove that. In Brazil, they've seen a 20-fold increase in the number of babies born with microcephaly, so that's a small brain, and they think it may be linked to Zika virus.
Right. So keep this in mind. Dr. Vaughn recommends women who are trying to get pregnant and traveling to South America, for example, Brazil, where it's really bad, or even the Caribbean, to wait until you're home to try. In fact, you want to wait about 21 days after you return before trying to get pregnant again. Now, if you're already pregnant, he recommends that you go to a travel clinic for sure to talk about your specific risk and where you're traveling specifically. Right now, the largest outbreak is in South America, but it has spread through Central America to the Caribbean, and they're even in pockets in Africa as well. But it's not just the Zika virus we should really be worried about. Dr. Vaughn says people should also be aware of malaria.
Unfortunately, in the last year, we did have a death in Alberta secondary to malaria, and it's a preventable illness. So again, another mosquito-borne parasite infection, but a lot of areas in the Caribbean have it. Really high numbers of malaria-infected mosquitoes in Africa as well. So if you're planning on traveling, I really do recommend going to a travel clinic to discuss the potential risks associated with that country. For malaria, you can just take a pill, one pill once a day, and that will prevent you from getting the infection.
Pretty simple, so just one pill. It's also really important to try to avoid being bitten in the first place. So remembering that many of these viruses are mosquito-borne, so simply wearing long sleeves, avoiding standing water where mosquitoes tend to populate, and of course using repellent with DEET in it. Those are things that are going to keep the mosquitoes away. As for other popular spots like Mexico, Dr. Vaughn recommends vaccinations for Hep A and B, typhoid, even boosters for other adult vaccines. So really there's so much to discuss to make sure that you're safe. That's why he's really recommending that everyone go to a travel clinic before you travel.
Okay, and when do travelers go to these clinics?
Well, ideally, Dr. Vaughn would love to see you 6 months before you travel.
Oh, wow.
But for
That's
a lot
planning.
that's planning ahead. So for a lot of us, that's not an option. But even a couple of months ahead of time would do a wonderful thing for you. But even if you can go just even a month or even 2 weeks, he said there's so much that they can do, even just if you go like 2 days before.
Right.
So the bottom line is get to a travel clinic before you go. It doesn't really matter when.
Okay,
Yeah.
and really quickly, what can people do if they come home feeling sick?
Okay, so the number one thing is if you come home from traveling specifically in certain areas and you have a high fever, Dr. Vaughn actually recommends skipping the family doctor and going right to the ER because, of course, malaria can be fatal. So make sure you get to that ER and tell them, I have been traveling and I have a high fever.
Okay.
And they'll investigate for malaria, rule it out, hopefully, right away.
Take that seriously.
Yes.
More information on your blog.
On my blog, you bet.
Breakfasttelevision.ca is where you can find that. Thank you very much,
You're very welcome.
Leah.